Early relationship building. Now, the buying psychology is such that before a customer will willingly accept a proposal, they have to go through a process. And they're interested, as you will know, there's so much talent in this room, you've got so much experience, and you will know that they are interested in their own companies, their own problems, and their own needs. And so Harvard research indicates that they need to have a UBR before they will make a decision to go with you. What's a UBR? Yeah, unique buying reason. It's really easy. I use kind of terminology like this, so forgive me ask me if I forget to explain it. Does that make sense? That's quite obvious, isn't it? Okay, so the buying process is 1 to 5, and this is research that tells us this. Number 1, they're unaware, so they don't know about you. And they move through from unawareness through to ordering in this order. Sometimes it's very quick, and sometimes it can take years. And what's important to remember for the guys that are building new desks, for example, and I've helped 50 or so recruitment companies set up from scratch, including a few of my own, is that when you're engaging with a client for the first time, often they've got good relationships with others. Would you agree with that? Often. And so it's understanding they're at stage 4 or 5 already with somebody else, and they may give you an opportunity, as you'll know, because the normal supplier can't help them at that particular instance. So whether your aim is to be a partner with them long term or not, this is an opportunity to prove how brilliant you are with your service, and then work on getting closer with them next time. Does anyone disagree or have any comments on that? Emma's a headhunter at the moment and a practicing one, so anything to add to that, Emma? Or?
I think that it's very difficult when you're making that first call, and we're all in markets where you have to differentiate very, very early on. Denise has got a very valid point in terms of the delivery of that first assignment is incredibly important, but for my money, it's actually having a really good reason, other than the fact that you want to win a piece of business, for phoning them. So being strategic and almost a little intuitive or emotional about the type of people you call, and I appreciate that some of you are very volume-driven businesses, but if you've actually got a really good reason as to why your business is a good potential partner for the business you're talking to, then it's got to be a sensible conversation. You know, you should be in a situation where you're able to overcome objections with something other than just a foot in the door and a yeah but. You know, all my client base are all HR directors and CEOs of companies. And I know how many calls they get on a daily basis from people they simply don't want to hear from. But if you stage it and you know why you're talking to them, and it has to be about more than just you, they'll hear that. They get that. And it's difficult to prove and demonstrate, but it's, of course, and the other thing that Denise said that I think is so relevant is be patient. You know, I've got clients that it's taken me 10 years to get a working relationship where I actually trade, and it's well worth it, because when it comes, you're almost instantly at partner stage. But if you put down the phone, pissed off because you haven't won a piece of business, and you never call them back, you may as well forget anybody from your business calling.
And the mistake that some relatively new recruiters make is they'll make a call when the client really doesn't know them, expecting to get a job or a meeting, and that's too much to expect at that time. So it's understanding where you are, where that client is in terms of knowing you and you knowing them, and approaching it in the right way, appropriately for that relationship. So the stages of the customer relationship are such that this is going from step 1 to step 5. I hope you can see this, guys, but start off, maybe they're just another customer, and you build up to true partnership. And as Emma said, that can take years. One of my best clients when I was running my recruitment business before I sold it took 3 years to get in front of them even, but once we did, that was it. The relationship grew so that it became a really great client. And so when you're just, they're just another customer, often you're just another supplier. And when they become a client of yours, you are a supplier, and then you become true supporters of each other. What does supporters mean? What kind of things do you do in the relationship? You don't have to put your hand up, just shout out, honestly, Ben.
Promote their business?
Yeah. Do you do...
Speaking highly of their business.
Yes. So you can't help it.
Yeah.
It's a bit like with me. You can see my hair. If I find a great hairdresser, I will shout about it. And if anyone can recommend one, let me know. But a supporter, then an advocate, where you go out of your way to really help each other. And then true partnerships. Who has those types of, show of hands, who has the levels 3 upwards? Right, so virtually all of you. So you know what this is about then? Great. Any questions? Okay. Right, so early stage sales then. Now, I haven't designed this to go into detail, but if you want detail, let me know. So just the tips are, be realistic. If you've got a database of clients that you really want to get close to, don't set yourself up to fail with the way you're going to work with them. The first time you contact them, as I said earlier, you're not likely to get a meeting or a job or even talk to a decision maker. Yeah, you just research. But the target qualification, what that means is make sure you know exactly who you're trying to target. So your target client ID is really important. Obviously, they're going to be in the sector you're working in, and they're going to recruit the type of people that you want to recruit for them. But what else is important to you? And it will vary from company to company. Are they liquid? Why do they need to be liquid? Yeah, well, they've got to pay our bills. So that's part of your criteria. What else? Right, so you're making sure you're talking to the right people. But what else? What makes a client really attractive to you and your team? The volume. So in your case, you're looking at volume recruiters, volume clients who could give you volume business. It's an attraction. Okay, great. Anything else?
The flip side to that being why? Because if they are a volume hirer, what's the problem? Because the last thing you want is you place 3-4 candidates with them and then all of a sudden rebate because they all walk out after 3-4 weeks.
Right, so what's your criteria there then? What are you aiming for here?
It's a bit of a happy medium, isn't it? You want a client that's going to recruit, but you don't want it to be some kind of a sweatshop where candidates are going to be walking in. It's a hire and fire mentality there, perhaps.
Right. Right, so you want clients where your candidate's going to stay, because you want to keep your fee, don't you, really, as well as having them happy. Great. What else? Yeah, similar things. So your candidate's going to want to stay. Sorry. Growth? Right, so potential for more business. Lovely. What else? Right, so what you're saying is, which I love, is you want clients who are going to work with you to find them the right people. Would you agree with that, Emma? Is that what we're looking for here?
I would completely agree. I also think, and it touches on a point somebody else made earlier, that actually the companies that aren't listening to you and that don't want to trade, you can add an enormous amount of value to those businesses, because you and I know they're making the wrong decision. We're all ambassadors for them. And even if we're not trading with somebody, you want somebody to say, yeah, it's a good place to work. Don't represent them myself, as opposed to they're a bunch of shysters who are going to fire you in 3 weeks' time. So, there's everything presents an opportunity. In fact, one of my biggest clients at the moment are shocking in terms of, but I've changed my terms and conditions. So I'll only represent them on the basis that there are no rebates. And they pay me up front.
There's a tip for you all.
Makes them think.
It does, it does. So you target, now not everyone can change their terms of business here, can they? Because they're not in charge. But anyway, it's an idea to take back. So the competition, you need to know your competition really well. You need to know your direct competition. You need to know clearly what they do for the money they charge. So the kind of service your clients get, good, bad or indifferent. You also need to know about the other types of competition, which is what? What else are you up against? It's been mentioned here. Yeah, LinkedIn, social media, what else could they use? Yes, internal recruiters. And you need to know, really, what works well for the client and what doesn't. And it's really important that the whole... Because if you know this, if yes, it's great that maybe it's cheaper, but what do they get for their cheaper? What's the problem with doing your own recruitment? We all know it, don't we? What happens when you... Well, you tell me, because I might say the wrong thing and I'm being recorded.
Or you have a lot of your time wasted by other people.
Massively. How long do you take sifting through?
I try and avoid advertising jobs, to be honest.
Sorry, sponsors. Okay. So you need to know the problems your clients are likely to have, or what could work well for them, because knowledge is what? Power, yes, power to the people. Right, fab. What's fab? Features, advantages, benefits. You need to know how to fluently explain what it is you do, features, as advantage, including the advantages and the ultimate benefit to your clients. This is really basic stuff that when I go into my clients and as a consultant to help them improve what they do in terms of client management development, they've forgotten how to say it. They forget. You know, it's not about just saying this is what we do. It's this is what we do, this is how we do it, and this is how it benefits you. So remember, clients only want to know what's in it for them. They're not interested in your 50 facts, really. They're interested in the 3 or 4 that might be relevant to them. So differentiation, you need to know how you're different. So, you know, Emma, you were saying about contacting people and, you know, you could be the 20th call today. How does anyone here sound different? Who's got a really good way of standing out from the crowd? No one. It's interesting. We'll come back to that. But consultative sales techniques will really help you here. So what's the most important thing before you do anything? Before you...
When you make the call, check if it's a good time to talk, or don't just open the call and start talking at them. Ensure that, you know, is this a good time to talk? Have you just got a couple of minutes? But ask it in a polite way so that, you know, you have their permission before you continue.
Right, so you're saying ask if there's time. You're saying they can say no. They always say no. Do they, though? Right, show of hands. Who asks, do you have time to talk?
I say, is it convenient?
Or is it convenient to
Or if
talk?
not, can I call back?
Great, so the majority. What's your sector? Ah, yes. Okay, then you carry on doing what you're doing. Because, yeah, okay.
At the very least, if it's not convenient, you can then book a time in.
Yes.
3 o'clock on Thursday, whatever, and then at least, if they don't answer the phone, they're going to feel vaguely guilty that you have to pre-arrange that you're going to call at that time.
So our objective is to make them feel guilty if they say, yeah, okay. What consultative sales techniques are you using generally? Not necessarily on the phone. What do you do? What's it about? Do you know what I'm talking about? That's the question. Yes. It's asking questions. The consultative sales techniques that work really well is just having a conversation. Now, it might not work in certain sectors.
Why do you say the exact technology recruiting as well? And also don't expect your clients can speak, but why single out IT as
It's just some technical business, depending on the level. Sometimes you need to adapt it in a certain way for your target audience. And a lot of the time, they're not interested in relationships and talking that much. It's the techie stuff, isn't it? And I know I'm generalising, so forgive me if I'm wrong here.
To a certain extent, I agree with you. It's a very difficult question to ask within our sector, if you've got time to speak, because you're trying to get through to a decision maker as an IT manager, an IT director.
Yes.
And IT is just one of those sectors where if one thing's going wrong, you've got 100 phone calls,
Yeah.
and if everything's going right, nobody's there to show you any love. Usually everything's going wrong.
We need the love, really, don't we?
Because everything's going wrong, they'll say no to you.
Okay. So selling, you need to, basically, consultative selling is all about asking questions once you can get past this, will you talk to me, to find out what they want, to find out what's of interest to them, to find out what's working maybe, to find out what they would ideally change if they could. And once you know that, you can then talk about your business as benefits to them and relay it to them in their reality. So if you want more detail on that, I could do some of that at the end. But you need consultative sales techniques in this market, and I work with so many different sectors where this really does work. Any comments or questions on that point? Okay. So you need to know how to do objection handling. Oh, no, you don't. Oh, yes, you do. So, objection handling, there are techniques to handle this. It's just like customer complaints. Who has a fantastic technique they use? Who would like to share? Nobody. Is that because you're not being very generous with each other? Hands up who handles objections well.
I think it depends on what the objection is, and it goes back to your consultative sales techniques.
Yes, it does.
If you don't listen to what they have to say and
Yes.
assume you know what their objection is going to be, you're likely to get it wrong.
Absolutely.
So it's almost going back and saying, especially if you work in a niche,
Yes.
you can almost assume that they might have certain issues, but that might not be right.
Yes.
So you really have to go in with a really open mind, because you don't really know what their response is going
Yeah.
to be.
And when you do get an objection, maybe you've got the knowledge that gives you the ability to answer it.
Most often they have similar objections about the recruitment industry, so you sometimes have to say, I understand what you're saying, or I know what you mean.
Yes.
But they might be a
Empathy.
bit away.
So you're on their level.
Yeah.
Yeah. I understand how you feel. Many of my clients before I started working with them felt the same, and now they don't. Now that's a bit cheesy. That's just
No,
off the cuff.
if you're
But
lucky to have some good client names to drop in, they'll go, oh yes, I know him. Or, oh,
Yes.
Okay. And then you sort of build it.
yeah, Emma will relate to that in search.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's where you use the examples, as you said, of your existing client base. That's exactly the problem that Unilever had. You know, they phoned up saying this, so we said, and it's a very easy way of demonstrating your client, demonstrating your capability, and overcoming the objection.
Now, a lot of people have left recruitment because it's tough. And this client relationship management stuff is a bit hard, isn't it? So, who enjoys the business developing and the cold calling and the... some of us do. Great. It's an addiction, isn't it? Once you get into it. I challenge you to practice this. I mean, I'm not saying do 100 calls a day, because I really personally see that not working. But even if you do 5 quality, meaningful business development calls in a day, or if you're high-level search selection, maybe 5 a week, but make them count. And the thing about selling is, again, I can't stress how much knowledge is power. Research, 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 research. Look on LinkedIn. Find out who knows who. Find out what's going on in that organisation's sector. You know, be knowledgeable when you make contact, because that will make you sound different. Right, so closing. Closing, I don't like the term. It sounds really manipulative, which is odd when I do training and workshops on selling, but it's just getting the next commitment. Getting the client to agree to the next stage, that's all. And in consultative selling, when we're trying to give as much and we're looking at, you know, from their point of view, often we forget to close. We forget to ask for the next commitment, and I'll go into that shortly. But admin. Hands up who's good at admin. Oh, boo. Okay, not too bad. Brilliant. What admin that we do in recruitment is going to really help us to build the relationships? What kind of things do we need to record, please?
You spoke to a client, email them,
Yes.
and record when you're going to call them next. I never record when I'm going to call them next.
Do you not?
I'm so excited. Only the next day, probably, when I remember, oh, I never read that.
But at least you do it the next day. It's about, and record the conversation, yeah, in detail. Yeah, I had clients who thought I had a fantastic memory because I remembered when they were getting married and the names of it was record keeping. You know, it can make you look so good.
It's the simplest thing. If just in the appointment you put, dogs called Bozo, it really does. And also, you're overcoming the perception of recruiters. The reason they all hate us is they think they're all shysters and if you come back being professional and consistent the whole way through a business development, you're demonstrating what your way of going about business is. And that's incredibly important. Your sales technique.
There's a risk of sounding a bit cheesy though, when you're too familiar, you remember too many things. I remember one client of mine, I remember he supported Charlton, and I made a comment as I'm saying to him on the phone, it just sounds cheesy, he knows I've written it down.
They might.
I don't think they mind if you're human. I think the reason why a lot of customers dislike recruitment consultants so much is because they sell so hard. They never put any personality into what they do.
Yeah, it's hard selling. That doesn't work.
I think you can only use this sort of stuff with people that you know reasonably well, though, because you will sound like a bit of an idiot if it's someone that you clearly don't know, or you might maybe haven't even done a single deal with.
You need to be careful.
Yeah, I would say that might apply to the first call, but not the second. So again, you're assuming you want to get a piece of business out of that first call. Yeah. You can't.
No.
You've got to draw it out longer. So the second, third time, how you doing, Babs? How was the barbecue? Is a lot better than it's so-and-so from so-and-so. You may recall we spoke 3 months ago.
And at the same time, we need to remember that in certain sectors, they're not going to want some of this. So you need to adapt. And you also need to be speaking the language of your target audience. So if you're working at low-level recruitment, then you're going to talk to people that may be quite junior. So you wouldn't talk to them about strategy, for example, because they'd be a bit, overcome with that. Whereas you would speak about strategy to your more senior contacts, maybe, and return on investment and all that kind of terminology. So it's about speaking their language, stuff you maybe already know, I'm sure. But admin, please, when I built teams before, if you can record what was said and you can build on that next time, great. You really will make a difference. So now, telemarketing. Let's go. And I'm going to agree to disagree with you on the, finding out, are they Arsenal supporters? Talk about Thierry Henry or whatever you're doing, So, for telemarketing, absolutely clear objectives. Please don't think you're going to get a meeting with them on the first call. If you do, great. That's a real, extra that you weren't expecting. But clear objectives should include, at least, making contact with whoever you've tried to make contact with, so whoever is right for you. And it's not just the decision makers. It's flag carriers. It is. It's people, you agree. Who are flag carriers then? Well, who's a flag carrier for you?
Anybody. I've got gatekeepers who are flag bearers, know them on a first name basis. They tell me exactly what's going on within the company.
Yes. Gatekeepers are your best friends. Make friends with them. Don't ignore them because they like to feel important. So ask for advice. They're great. I'll pay you later for saying that. So, but it's everywhere. Everybody in your network that has anything to do with that organisation, you need to be in contact with, because you want everybody in the organisation to be saying you're fabulous, because that builds awareness. It's not just about your overt marketing, it's about what people say about you, the stories they tell about you. So your clear objectives may be make contact with somebody who's relevant, share some useful information, start to build the relationship, And for goodness sake, get a call pattern. Logs for the next call. Because where I've helped build businesses, it's that alone. It's the record keeping and logging the next call to be made that builds these relationships. I've gone into companies where clients haven't been called for 4 years. And then they wonder why there's no business coming from those. It takes time to build those relationships. And you do at the next call, it's much easier. Hi, this is Denise from blah, blah, blah. How was your wedding? You then might disagree. But you can do that with most clients. Would you not agree? Easy. Now, this is a first call here. So you need clear objectives for the call. Ideal, second best, third best. Valid business reason for your opening statement. It's got to be really strong. So who's got some really good examples they can share? Nobody. Oh, thank you.
You've seen something on their LinkedIn, perhaps, obviously, if you're connected to them, and they've had some new advance in their, within their industry, or they're opening, or they're having a new product,
Yes.
or they're having a celebration event.
Yes.
Things that they're actually actively involved with. And if you obviously, and I've got a large client who just won a new contract, it's been put in the paper. So dropping them a line, whether it's a call or a quick email to the MD, just to say, saw that.
Yes.
People love, obviously, to be recognised.
Yes.
So again, it just puts a nice flavour. So when you do next make that call, they remember you fondly or in a positive light.
Brilliant. And you need to have something that's relevant to them. It's a valid business reason from their point of view. It's not from really your point of view. It's what's going to be of interest to them. And a lot of companies that specialise in telemarketing, where you can outsource to them, spend 2 weeks getting that right on behalf of their clients who they're going to do telemarketing for. So I would, in most cases, check it's convenient to speak. But the introduction needs to be based on the valid business reason for being in touch. So I've been working in X sector for 25 years. I've helped organisations like, I don't know, Motorola, Ericsson, whatever is relevant to the sector. To save time, money, whatever it is. Don't make this sound cheesy. This needs to be right for you. The bridge. I don't know if I could do the same for you. But the reason for my call, or I thought it was about time I made contact with you because we've not spoken before, or so-and-so suggested that you might be interested in how we've helped, whatever it is, and then questions. So I don't know if I can do the same for you, but could I just ask you a couple of questions? And then you need to find out whatever it is you want to find out. But generally, it's what's working, what's not working, what they would do. You need to find out what they like, what they don't like about what they do now, and then you have the opportunity to differentiate. So everyone does this differently, and you don't have to follow this, but it's generally what is working in this market in many of the organisations that I go into, adapted for the reality. So do you know what? Our clients found that, and they're getting this. I think it would be, you'd really like the way we work, wonder if we could meet for coffee. That works for one. I'm just quoting verbatim what somebody says. So try it. How does that sound in comparison to what you do for cold stuff? Is it rubbish?
I think it depends on the sector.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
They don't want you to sell, they want you to understand their business,
Yes.
they don't want you to speak to a salesperson, I guess. So it's a
Yes.
way of disguising the fact that you're selling something.
Disguise, I like the word.
Without being deceitful and dagger about it, obviously, but it's a way of disguising that you're selling something as more of a conversation rather than,
This should be a natural conversation. I know it won't feel like it because you're talking to a stranger, but if they feel that all you're doing at the moment is seeing if you might work together in the future. You don't know. I don't know if I can help you. Might work for you, might not.
I'm usually pretty direct.
Good for
I'm
you.
obviously calling because I want to establish a business relationship with them, and I say who I am, what I do, and I'm interested in finding out if there's potential to establish a business relationship.
Great.
And they'll go, oh, okay, that's a bit direct. Why? And
Yeah.
then I say why.
So then you say your benefit,
it
and then
works
talk.
because I think, well, I specialise in sales recruitment.
Yes.
So my customers are sales directors,
Fab.
and they do not want a sales pitch.
Yeah, they don't want any faff.
They get so many sales pitches that they just want you to say what you want to do and get on.
So this is what I am. This is what I do. Let's talk about it. Great. It works for different sector, different ways. But it wouldn't work in some that I know, but it works for yours. And then you need to close. So could we meet for a coffee? No, you can't. How about we remain in contact? That's what you want. You want some kind of agreement that you can call back and get their agreement and suggest the time. So if the conversation goes quite well, you'll be able to gauge how much potential business there is there. And you might suggest it's worth a monthly call. Or it might be worth a 6 monthly call. It might, whatever. So most of my clients expect me to call them every 6 months. What do you say, Emma, here?
It varies.
Do you gauge?
But one thing is I make sure I call them whether they're recruiting or not.
Yes. It needs to be to maintain and build the relationship. That's what's going to help you. So you're in touch even when they're not recruiting. You're doing, and maybe sharing market knowledge, market information. You're giving them something at those times. You're not seeing if they've got jobs. The worst thing people could do is, hello, got any vacancies? I mean, that's from the 80s, isn't it? You know? Oh, it's embarrassing. Please don't do that. Admin again, record that conversation. And it's the follow-up that works here. So can anyone add to this? Because you've got amazing experience in this room. We've got some managers here. Esther, can you add to this? I'm not picking on you because you're in my eye line.
A lot of the things that we do, because obviously it's very specific to our sector,
Yes.
is, one of them will sell something back in who has been there before, or will sell someone in who has got relevant experience, perhaps has worked for one of their competitors. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yes.
Be careful about that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't want someone who's worked with one of their competitors.
No.
Because they think that absolutely might be a good competitor. So you have to be a bit careful about that one, but that works quite well. We do a lot of reverse marketing of candidates into our clients because they tend to like that approach because again you're giving them something that hopefully that they want.
That's tangible as well.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is tangible.
And that's your opening statement, that's your valid business reason. And what I'd suggest is, and I'm sure you do this, is if they don't want that person, don't stop there. So what is it you do want when you recruit? What don't you want? What do you expect in an ideal world? You need to find what they need. But anyway, thank you for sharing. Anyone else want to share anything on this subject before we move on? No? Okay.